Can you help? Can you help me? Can you help? Self-Helpless! Can you help? Can you help me? Can you help? Self-Helpless! Can you help? Can you help me? Can you help? Self-Helpless!
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Self-Helpless podcast. I'm Delaney Fisher.
And I'm Kelsey Cook.
And today we are talking about our bucket list items, maybe things that we've already ticked off, things that we want to accomplish or do or try in our lifetime before we die.
Yeah.
And we're just really hoping that this episode inspires you to not only create a list for yourself because they're so unique and specific and personal to each one of us, but also to start implementing those things and to start bringing those things into like your present life and bridge that gap between things that feel far away and what you could do now.
Oh man, yeah. So well said. Because it made me realize that I don't think anybody's asked me what my bucket list is in a really long time. Like, I'm sure there's something like that in The Artist's Way, but I haven't read that in years and years. And it was a really good exercise to be like, oh shit, yeah, what else is important to me before I go? And like, what have I done that actually was probably on there, but now I've been able to do? So it's a really good exercise.
Ooh, I'm so excited. Yeah, it's going to be like part reflection, part hashtag goals. I mean, yeah, it's going to be a good time. But before we get into it, we got a couple of things that we want to plug. A lot of you know I have a podcast. You can find it at DelaneyFisher.com. It's all about building an unconventional life and career and figuring out what the fuck actually makes you happy, the work you enjoy, and all that good stuff. So you can find that for free, DelaneyFisher.com. Would love to have you. Kels, where are you performing right now?
So many tour dates. I'm going to be in Louisville this weekend at the Louisville Comedy Club. And then next weekend, I'm going to be in Spokane, in my hometown, at Spokane Comedy Club. A couple weeks after that, I'm going to be in Cleveland at Hilarities. And then in November's bananas. I'm in Grand Rapids, DC, Huntsville, Nashville, Atlanta. And then in December, I'm in Boston and Tampa. So tons of places to see me the rest of the year. Of course, there will be a bunch of new tour dates for next year. So if I just said a city that's not near where you are, don't worry. I am sure I will be coming somewhere near you next year. But if I am by one of those places you live, please come out. KelseyCook.com for tickets.
Yay! Fantastic. All right. I think we have a couple quotes for the episode.
Yes, please share with me what you have.
Yes. To be honest, I just Googled bucket list quotes and some really delicious ones came up. Love this. This is unknown, so I can't attribute it to anybody, but it's the goal is to die with memories, not dreams. Oh God. It gives me the tingles, that one.
I just got fingered by that quote. That felt so...
Exactly.
Man.
Really tickles your taint.
That was a guttural,
Yeah.
Yep. That's about your mere quote. Do it again.
Let's read it again. Let's experience this moment together for a second time.
Okay.
The goal is to die with memories, not dreams.
Yeah.
It's such a good reminder because I'm so guilty of this, of like, once I accomplish this thing or do this thing, then I can do this other thing.
Yeah.
Instead of doing the thing that I actually want to do as soon as I can and am able to.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of that morbid, scary thing to look at where you're, none of us like to think about death, but a quote like that makes you go, okay, I want to make sure that I do not have regrets or things that I really wish I would have done, but I just wasn't brave enough to do. Oh God, that's a terrible feeling. That's how I felt before I started stand-up. I was like, I want to do this, but I'm too scared. That's the worst.
We kind of get in this default mode of thinking that we have indefinite amount of time to do shit.
Yep.
And then we have to kind of remind ourselves, actually, we don't. As scary as it is, we don't.
We don't, yeah.
Whew. All right, next one. You ready for the next
We're like, let's get out of the death talk. It makes both of us so uncomfortable.
Oh, gosh. This one is from Annette White. It says, stop dreaming about your bucket list and start living it.
Oh, great.
Very similar, right? And this one is an Emerson quote. Do not go where the path may lead. Go instead where there is no path and leave a trail.
Oh, I love that too.
I love this. And I think this really speaks to how unique each person's list really is. Like when you get honest with what you actually want, not what you think you need to want or should want and put on your list. Just because everybody on Instagram is going to fucking Tahiti doesn't mean you have to put that on you, right?
Yeah.
Your bucket list. But what is it that you want? Maybe you just want a really fancy teacup. I don't know. Like that's what I want. Always.
Like, that sounds very Delaney specific.
Right. So I like that because it's true. It's like if you really get specific, your bucket list to me, it feels more attainable.
Yeah.
It feels more achievable.
Yeah, I agree.
So I'm curious to know what kind of came up for you first, Kels. I know for me, when I thought about my bucket list, I actually was surprised because I started about thinking of the things that I've already done that used to be on my bucket list. And I was feeling so grateful that I'm like, oh, I really do feel like I'm living my bucket list. Yeah. I wasn't always, but I mean, just even something simple as like, I've always wanted to live in the neighborhood that I live in now. And when that became achievable, that was, that used to be on my bucket list.
Yeah.
And, finding a life partner, that was a huge bucket list item that I have found in Cam. Little things too, like being able to find somebody who thought it was totally fine for us to walk down the aisle to Tenacious D at our wedding, right? Like just like these little miniature bucket list things, and the bigger ones, the adventurous ones, like zip lining and parasailing and all this weird stuff I've done in my career really flooded me. So what came up for you that used to be on your bucket list that you've ticked off?
Oh, so ones that used to be that I've ticked off. Well, I was always pretty curious about Costa Rica, and I got to go there for the first time this year, and it was the best trip of my life. It was so magical. I got to go to Hawaii a couple years ago. That was another thing that was on my bucket list. Those sort of like tropical, you see it on a calendar and go, before I go, I'd like to go to those places and just see what that's like in person. So those trips were incredible. I had dreams of putting out a full hour comedy special, like a true, not just an album, but an actual special. And that happened this year as well. I had dreams of living in a city that wasn't LA or New York, but being successful enough in stand-up that I could tour and like live where I actually wanted to live, but have the career I wanted. So I used to, it's funny, I used to actually look up to Chad in this career because he had achieved that dream. He didn't have to live in a city he didn't want to. And there's a handful of other really big comics that have done that now as well. And I'm like, not only living it, but living it with him as my life partner, which is crazy. But
manifested that shit big
really
time.
did. It, like manifested it off the charts actually, which is like, actually we're just going to give you like all of this. It's just like a package deal that you get the guy too. So yeah, those are some things. I got to perform in a theater in Paris. And like go there with my mom a few years ago, and that was really incredible. And then, in fact, just this last weekend, I know I've talked about it the last couple episodes, we've been recording back-to-back episodes, but getting to perform in an arena for 10,000 people, that's the sort of bucket list thing that you don't even really let yourself dream about. Yeah. Because it's so big that I don't know if you ever feel this way with dreams or bucket list things where you're like, there's a voice that says, don't be stupid. Or that's like so silly to imagine. So I love that got to happen, and it was something I was afraid to even want to get to perform in a setting like that.
Oh my God, totally makes sense. I've done things that I didn't even realize could be on my bucket list, or that I would want to be on my bucket. Like having a this is a fucking dream job. Having a podcast like this. Like this, I couldn't have even thought this up. Like if I made a bucket list a decade ago, I wouldn't even know about this job to even put it on my list.
Yeah.
Yeah, and now I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a bucket list. I remember I grew up watching Lifetime movies with my mom,
This is
as
a good
most of
one.
us did, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, God, that'd be so like, that'd be so funny or fun to write one of those movies, or like whatever, be in one, or what is it like on this set? These movies are so ridiculous. And then not only to getting to write a Lifetime movie, but it gets made and I get to act in it. I was like, what the fuck? And I was like, did that one for my mom, because we would watch these things and like, gosh, these are so addicting and so silly. Like, what is going on behind the scenes? And I got to see that. And it's just like I think just not judging yourself or knocking yourself for what you're drawn to and attracted to, like, not beating yourself up about that. I mean, maybe not everybody has an inkling or a thought that writing a Lifetime movie would be really fun, right? But like, I was like, that does sound fun. I would like to try that.
So wild.
And just being very open to like, I don't know, what could be on your list, and maybe you don't even know. Like, there's some stuff where I'm like, I'm just open. I got a lot of open slots on my bucket list, and I am very receptive to whatever might come up also.
Yeah. I feel like I've been trying to find that balance lately of, being specific with my goals and manifesting and all of that sort of thing, but also just being really open to whatever else is coming too that maybe like is outside of any limiting beliefs I have of what a goal can be. Because sometimes you just get so surprised. Like, you fucking got a Lifetime movie, man. That's crazy.
And was not seeking it. There's no like submit an application to write a Lifetime movie. It like happened in a very weird, organic way. And I was like, oh my God, part of me has always wanted to do this. How weird. Right?
Yeah.
Very strange. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you just never know what's around the corner. I'm really curious about any kind of personal bucket list items that came up for you that you haven't done yet, whether it's travel, adventure, home life, relationship life, just anything, things that you might want to own one day, anything like that.
Oh, yeah. So the first one that came to mind is that I want to be able to squirt. No, I'm kidding.
I thought you do that already. God, I gotta add that to my list. I feel like I'm gonna have a much longer list after this conversation.
I know, literally, Johnny should do this. I've never actually squirted, but I mean,
I have pissed my pants, but that's different.
That is different.
Yeah,
that's really different. But man, when we had Susan Bratton on for that episode, and she really gave kind of like a step-by-step, hey, if you're going to do this, this is how you would do it. So, I mean, I said that like half kidding. I will say some of the people who talk openly online that they can squirt, it just sounds like so much fluid that part of the time I'm like, the laundry, I don't know. That's like,
you gotta put some trash bags, get a tarp or something, put that on your bucket list. The tarp first, and then the squirting comes after the tarp, maybe. Let's be intentional about these lists, you guys.
I don't know. I'm just all about like whatever the idea is of having the craziest orgasm. Like if squirting feels like a crazier orgasm for people, then to me that could be a bucket list thing. Because I'm like, well, that sounds amazing, but the cleanup, I don't know that it's worth it. But just
keep us posted.
On this, thanks so much. Yeah.
If this becomes something that you tick off your list, I would like to know, and I would like to be one of the first people to be notified. I'll join whatever email list I need to.
I'll send you the text immediately.
Okay.
Yeah. But go check out that Susan Bratton episode, by the way. She was really eye-opening and so educational, and just like the sex ed teacher that everybody should have had, basically.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So one of the very, very first things that came to mind for me was going to the Harry Potter world in London, where you get to go to all of the actual sets and the people so Taylor's been before. Taylor just went this year on her London part of her tour. And I know a YouTube beauty guru who has, and she posted some footage of it. And people who go say that it is really life-changing. If you're a Harry Potter fan, that like you're crying,
Wow.
it's like they've left everything, they've preserved everything. And
Wow, that's
man,
so cool.
I watch Harry Potter again every year, like the series every year. I just love it so much. And so that I think would be really, really special to me. I would really like to do that.
I always forget how big of a nerd you are. I always forget how big of a Potterhead you are. I don't know why, but you remind me like once every few months, like, oh yeah, I forget that is who you are. That's so cool. I'm not even a Potter person. I've seen a few of the films and stuff.
Oh, I know.
I would.
Do you think
You're
I forgot when you called yourself a Griffin Pop? Yeah, I'm like, our friendship, there was a crack that it just broke a little bit. And there's been a hole in our friendship that's never been filled. And
I know, it's like I forget all the time you are, and you will never forget that I am not. But I am not a Potter person, and I would want to do the thing that you just said.
Wow.
That sounds really cool.
Yeah.
Because I've seen enough of this stuff. I know enough about it to like, I want to
Do
walk
you?
around it.
Do you know?
I mean,
enough about it?
I know enough for my sake, right? I know some of the names, and I know some kind of cool stuff that they do, fly around on brooms and shit. That's awesome. I would love to walk around just a magical place, like a cool themed set of stuff. That's neat to me, even if I'm not like into reading all the books.
Yeah, it's supposed to be pretty amazing. So I'd love to go there.
Oh.
I would love to go to Loch Ness in Scotland, which is,
that's a good one.
you
That's a
know,
good
you just had
one.
your Ireland trip.
Yes.
You're talking to the girl who believed in Santa until 5th grade. So
You did. How did nobody spoil it for you, or did people try and you're like,
yeah,
it's real?
My parents, I was the first child, and my parents just couldn't do it. They could not muster up the courage to break my heart, because I love magical, mystical things. I mean, I just want to go to Harry Potter world is like my first thing. So
Absolutely.
I really firmly believed that Santa was real. I had no indication that it was my parents. And then one day in 5th grade, I started to get teased for it. And so in class, the teacher said, okay, everybody who doesn't believe in Santa, raise your hand. And pretty much the whole class raised their hand. And then she said, okay, now raise your hand if you do believe in Santa Claus. And it was me and the one kid who like still openly picked his nose and ate his burgers in front of everybody. And I was like, oh.
Oh, yeah.
I have been terribly misled. And so I went home and I was crying. I cried to my parents. I was like, everybody said that Santa's not real, but I know he is, and I believe that he's real. In 5th grade.
Did you say a teacher asked you guys to raise your hands? Or somebody? I feel like that shouldn't really be allowed.
Probably not, but...
Yeah. Jeez, you had some weird teacher stuff happen to you as a kid.
Lawless and Cheney, Washington. Yeah, so, and then at that point that my parents knew I was starting to get teased, then they told me. But I say this all to say that I have a strong foundation of wanting to believe in mythical creatures, and God, I would love to think that the Loch Ness Monster is real. I'm sure it's not. I know it's not. But I think it's a really... So my dad and stepmom recently went like 3 weeks ago, and they went on a boat tour on Loch Ness.
How fun.
And it looks just so beautiful anyway. It's like, I just think it would be a fun... They said that the area is really themed. There's like all these, I don't know, like memorabilia or whatever. Not gift shop things. What's the word I'm looking for? Souvenirs.
Souvenirs. Yeah.
Souvenirs. Thank you. Of Loch Ness things. And I just think it would be fun to add that to an Ireland-Scotland trip.
It is fun. I would do that too. It's like, it's fun to feel like a little kid again. It's fun to feel like magic could be real and all that stuff. You know, magic in that way can be real, you know? I think those are great. So specific.
Thanks. Yes. I think I would really love to see the pyramids in Egypt.
Ooh, yeah. Yeah, that's cool. One of Cam's brother has lived in Egypt and India and all that stuff. And he's like, it's really cool. And it's also really crowded. It kind of takes you out of the coolness because it's so touristy and there's crowds and cars and traffic and all this stuff. And I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. But just, I'm sure there's, you know, a moment where you could try to block that out and be like, well, this is wild that this exists.
Yeah. Those sort of historical things that are that old and that really blow your mind of how this came to be. I think that would be pretty profound. I saw that AJ McLean from the Backstreet Boys went recently and posted pictures of it. And I was like, oh yeah, that's...
Fuck, if AJ is doing
it. If AJ's doing
add it
it
to my list.
Listen.
Gotta add it to our list.
What would AJ do? And then this is one for me that I feel very strongly about. I would really like to continue to see my like top 5 favorite musicians every year that they're on tour.
Wow, that's really cool.
You know,
that is cool.
I think that's a thing that I can commit to, and that it would make me so happy to keep doing that.
I love it.
Thank you. And then, and we'll talk about this more later, but I want my dream house. I have lived in apartments my whole life. Technically, Chad and I live in a townhouse right now, but we rent it. And it's, other than that, been all apartments, and I feel very ready for a house. And yeah, there will be some more updates later about that, but it's on my bucket list. And so anyway, that's kind of the first stuff I was thinking about. Those are the top of my list, but I'm really excited to hear yours because I think it will inspire more stuff from mine.
Ooh, well, you said so much great. I like how specific, like going to see your top 5 favorite artists every year on tour. It's so specific, and it's so specific to you, and I love that.
Yeah, thanks.
So the ones that came up for me, I thought about travel because Cam and I just went to Ireland, and that had been a bucket list of mine since I was a little kid because my grandfather was from Ireland, and I was like, that's going to be a cool place to go. And seeing not only, you know, where he grew up, but also the beautiful sights and also the more touristy spots, like the Blarney Castle and Gardens was incredible.
Wow.
Really like blew us away. Just so many cool things out there. And I realized that I used to be very overwhelmed by all the travel I wanted to do because there's infinite amount of places you could visit. And so like it kind of was overwhelming. Like, how do you pick?
Right.
And so I loved the kind of sentimental part of being there. And I figured, well, I'll just start with maybe what's sentimental first that I would want to go to. So would love to go to Australia one day. My grandmother was born in Perth and grew up in Australia. So that's on our list. And Scotland is on our list now too, because that's Cam's, you know, origin and stuff like that. So, okay, once we do those, maybe we'll think about other stuff. But if you are very overwhelmed or have an overwhelmed brain like I do of too many options makes you feel like inactive, what's maybe kind of a filter you could put on that, and maybe that can help you decide where you might want to travel to first.
Yeah.
So those are the big travel ones. I'm seeing a lot of cool like vegan resorts pop up, and I gotta go to one of those at some point where you just like
resort.
Oh my God, just like everything is, you know, everything from the materials to the food to the activities to whatever. And I'm like, okay, somebody got to sign me up for this shit.
Yeah.
So I don't know which one yet, but I think that would be really cool. I've never been to like a resort or like a retreat or resort experience where like you're there for your like healing, well-being, where it's like the whole point of the trip is to like, you know, maybe do yoga every morning and eat, you know, in a good, whatever, a nutrient dense way and sit by the beach or whatever. I think that would be cool to do. All the resorts and things I've stayed in have been for other vacations and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Cam and I have a lot that we want to do just in California as well. And in the United States, like we want to go to Nashville together. Because I fucking loved the show Nashville. I got to be honest. That is the reason. It's the sole reason.
It's so fun. You and Cam will have a blast. That main street is, it's like smaller town Vegas.
Oh, yeah.
You know
that
what I
sounds
mean?
perfect.
But with live music instead of just DJs. And listen, I love a Vegas DJ, but you'll love it. It's so fun.
Oh, I can't wait to do Nashville. That's like the top of our list. We want to go to New Orleans. I've been in New Orleans, Napa, those types of things. So a lot of like travel and stuff like that. The kind of specific ones in my personal life when it comes to what Cam and I want to build with each other. I would like to either rent property or own property. It's very challenging in California to own the thing that you want to own, but want a backyard for my fucking dogs. I want a yard for my dogs. That's what they deserve. And I want to be able to give that to them. And I really want a nice bathtub. Whatever home I end up in, I have a bathtub now I'm very grateful for, but I want like a bathtub that's like a dream tub that I could live in, you know, like I'm going to live in there and not be great with that, you know? Those are like the really very specific things about my home life that I would like. And that there's a lot of personal ones that I feel like creatively I'm drawn to try at some point. Like I really want to like write a song at some point. I mean, write and produce one, whether it's I'm writing it and somebody sings it and it just like a finished piece of something. Maybe it's just for me or whatever. I really enjoyed getting songs made for, I gifted Cam a song for our wedding gift and stuff like that. And that whole process was just very fun to me. And I've just written things and I'm like, oh, that would be cool. I don't know what the fuck I would do with it, but that's kind of a weird specific bucket list where I got to just take like a song writing and production class or something, or partner with somebody who would want to make that with me or something for fun. Another kind of creative thing that came up is I love to paint and sketch, and that's what I kind of do in my free time. And I would love to just make a body of work that felt like a gallery kind of some kind, where maybe I make 30 pieces and they're all a little like cohesive or they have a story. And whether I gift these to friends and family who want them, or I sell them somewhere, or they're just in my own home, I don't know. But that is a bucket list for me. And I mean, I paint all the time. I probably have a bunch of pieces that I could put together, but really enjoy that a lot.
For those of you who don't know, Delaney is such a talented artist.
Oh, that's sweet.
Oh, it's true.
Oh, that's very nice of you.
It's true.
I appreciate it. I feel like very creatively blocked sometimes, but yeah, painting is nice. So those were big ones. I realized that my bucket list is just like, I want to express myself in different mediums. Those really came up a lot. Those really came up a lot for me.
Oh, that's really cool to know that.
Yeah. So I do stuff like that, and I maybe just kick it up a notch, you know? I write poems, I write songs, but nobody fucking sees them. So maybe one will be seen at some point.
You write poems?
You know? I do. If I have an idea, I just write it in my phone, and I'm like, look, just fucking get it out of your head. Don't judge it. So I do a lot of writing in different facets: jokes, poems, songs, lyrics. Don't know where it comes from, but it comes out of me.
I love that.
Those are just some things that came up.
What
kind of stuff is on your like professional bucket list?
Oh man,
if you have any on there.
Well, I know that I want to do a theater tour. Many theater tours, but that's something that's been exciting. As after the special came out, I've had my in-person attendance for these tour shows be selling out a lot of the time, and it's really exciting. And you just kind of hope that as your following grows more and more, that you would be able to fill a theater instead of a comedy club. And when I got to actually do those guest spots opening for Taylor here in Minneapolis earlier this year, that was a fun in-person bucket list reminder of like getting to experience that and go, oh yeah, this is what I'm working toward. Is this feeling is getting to perform in a theater. And there are still so many things I love about performing in comedy clubs, but theaters are definitely a very special experience. So that's kind of like next on my list, is to be making that happen. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, getting ready to shoot my next special. So it's hard in comedy. it's not like you have a goal to do one thing. It feels like it's like you have a goal to keep doing the thing you love and to keep growing and having your comedy reach more people and connect with more people. So those are kind of those things. When you talk about branching out creatively, acting comes up a lot for me. That's something that when I am on my deathbed, I do not want to feel like I didn't give acting enough of a shot. So
Yeah.
I had a pretty big audition, maybe what was that, a month or two ago, and I can't remember if I talked about it on here or not, but I didn't get the part, but it was for like a big show, and I don't think that they were asking very many people to audition, and it felt like a good moment of growth because I was like, okay, even though I didn't get it, I feel good about that audition, and I am happy that casting director has seen that, so that maybe for other opportunities in the future, I will be a better fit for whatever the role is. So yeah, acting comes up for me when I start to think about like long-term things. I don't know if this comes up for you, but sometimes my creative goals bump up against my lifestyle goals.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Hence my entire life pivot.
Yeah. Sometimes I get afraid to put things on my bucket list or like goals list, things that if they were happening would mean that I probably wouldn't have very much privacy. You know, like I had so much fun performing in that arena. But if I think about, okay, if I was doing my own arena tour and selling that many tickets, that would mean I would be a level of, you would be at a level of fame where like you don't really have privacy anymore.
Right.
And I don't know. I guess I'm trying to decide what is important to me and like what I value and how, like I said, I feel so grateful that I'm able to live in a city where I want to live, and like I don't have to do the LA grind anymore because that just was not for me for the long haul.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm trying to, I don't know. I like my home life a lot. I like a lot of peace. I like a lot of, you know, I just like love being with Chad all the time and visiting my family and friends. So career stuff is so important to me, but I know that I'm not trying to live like Kevin Hart. You know, I'm not trying to like, my goal isn't to be in every major Hollywood movie. I also want to be home and enjoy my home life. So,
Kels, I resonate with this so much.
Really?
Yeah, I really do. And I didn't know that you were feeling, I mean, I knew that I didn't know you were feeling that way to that extent, honestly.
Oh,
you know?
okay, yeah.
And it always brings me a lot of peace when I hear somebody who's like massively successful. Maybe they've done an arena somewhere or they did something that they sold out and I've never heard of them. That gives me so much peace because I'm like, oh, there is some kind of success in that way, but maybe you do have some kind of privacy also where maybe a majority of people don't know who you are, but a niche group really does. And that's cool.
Yeah.
But oh my God, everything that you said has just been like a dilemma of mine. And my breakup with stand-up, it was very painful and still is very painful because it's a part of me that I have not figured out how to fully integrate into my life and lifestyle now. It's almost like I could think of it as like a breakup. Like, let's say that you broke up with somebody that you really loved, but you wanted different things. Like they wanted to live in Australia and have five children or something.
Sure.
And you want to live in California and have 0 children. And it's like, that's never going to work, but you still love each other. It's not like the love. And so there's so much I loved about that creative process, writing jokes and being a part of a lot of that stuff. But the lifestyle wasn't fitting with me. And I'm like, I haven't figured out how to fully integrate that creative piece of me into my life yet. And so it's like it feels very disjointed. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, I totally understand like what you're saying. I mean, it's a big piece to think about.
Yeah, I think a lot of adults have a rude awakening as we get older, and maybe I feel like there's so many people who thought they knew what they wanted to do for work, for a career,
Yeah.
and that's what they went for in college. They got out of college, went right into that field of work, and then they were like, "Oh, I fucking hate this actually."
Right.
You know, a lot of people who maybe loved in like the healthcare system loved the idea of helping others and taking care of others, but that environment and those hours for a lot of people is like, holy shit, I don't think I can do it like this. And so that's a question. I think even if you're not in the entertainment industry or in creative work or anything like that, that you end up having to figure out for yourself is like, how do I find that balance between doing something I love, but not hating my life?
Oh my God. Yeah. I was actually talking to my sister the other day. She's in the process of becoming a nurse and she thinks that she wants to be an ER nurse.
Oh my gosh.
But like since talking to other nurses, I think she's gotten the feedback of like, try it first if you can, or like she's thinking I should probably try something similar before I maybe commit to all that schooling and all that training for this thing. And so now she's thinking that for a while, maybe she wants to work on like an ambulance and actually see like emergency traumatic things.
Yeah.
So she knows how she will actually react to it. She thinks that's what she wants to do, but she also hears of people who like see something and they're like, fuck this. This is not the career for me. I can't do this every day.
Yeah.
And they have to figure something out, whether it's in that industry or something totally different. And so, you know, even she's thinking of that. And like, we have wildly different career paths, but she's like, it hit me that I could go through all this schooling and try to get in this niche. And then day one, I find out that I can't see this traumatic thing.
Yeah.
Right. I can't deal with that. And then I have to figure out if I even want to be in this industry. Right.
God damn.
So it's like, I think everybody's like considering that. And if there is a way that you could try these things out in a more bite size or like present capacity, it's so helpful. I did a lot of that when I was trying to figure out my next moves, just interviewing people, talking to people. I would like hit up one of my friends who's a writer and be like, can I take you to lunch and ask you questions?
Yeah.
Same thing. You know, it's like, what is it really like being a TV writer? I want the dirty details. I want the awesome stuff. What is this life like?
Yeah.
And that is how I weeded so much shit out, because I was able to like hear something like a real life instance and then compare it with my personality and my goals and my needs in my day to day. And a lot of stuff wasn't actually a fit. You know, there's a lot of stuff I glorified in my head thinking that would be cool. But when you hear about the reality or you get a snapshot, you're like, oh, actually, I'm actually relieved this is not for me, because now I'm a step closer to what is. I think you also have to take things with a grain of salt. You can't like let one experience or one opinion shape everything. But if you start hearing the same things from a lot of people, it's so helpful. I mean, it's really, really a super helpful tool if you can connect with people.
Definitely. And I think it's also pretty common to, even once you find what you love and you go, oh, actually, I love what I'm doing, I love this lifestyle, that can change as you get older based on other factors in your life. Like I love my life outside of my career so much now that I'm at this weird crossroads where I'm like, well, I obviously want my career to keep growing and growing and growing. But in my line of work, that means that you're gone all the time. Like if you truly are trying to tour like a maniac, then you're not home. But I finally, it's like, oh, I have now built a life outside of my career that I want to enjoy. I want to spend as much time with my partner as I can. I want to enjoy our home, like the things that we've worked for, you know, our living space. It's like you want to actually do that, spend time with your pets, all that shit. So I'm also trying to figure that out actively right now, is like setting those sort of boundaries in my life for, okay, you can still do this and do it at the level that you want to, but you have to be smart about it, because you're not going to do yourself or anybody any good to run yourself into the ground and be sick all the time. Like you have to take time to be home too.
Exactly. I mean, this is we've talked about it many times, of just really defining, what does success mean to you? What does that actually look like? Is it more balance with home life and work life? Is it like, no, I really want to live on the road. Like, some people are like, I want to be on the road. I don't really care about being home and XYZ, right? Like, and that makes them happy. I mean, we're all so different. And I think that's what's awesome about this, is that there is like room for everybody to get in that nook of what makes sense for them and make it work.
Yeah.
Because we all want such different things.
Yeah.
Anything else on your professional list that came up?
Oh, I'm sure we'll be done recording this episode and I'm like, oh yeah, that and that and that. But
yeah,
I feel pretty focused in on the things with stand-up, wanting to do more acting stuff as that comes. And I know this is silly, but I do have number goals for social media of like, I want, like 1 million followers. Yeah, it's funny. I know I shouldn't say it is. It just sounds superficial, but in my line of work, it's you wanting a higher number of followers is because that means that hopefully more people are coming to your shows. So it's not like
it helps the tour. It helps your theater tour goal.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, like wanting like to hit that million follower milestone on all platforms, which by the way, I just crossed 500,000 followers on Facebook. So thank you guys so much if you follow me on Facebook. Yeah.
That's awesome.
I went from 10,000 followers to over 500,000 followers in a year.
Wow.
Isn't that nuts?
That is awesome.
I was not expecting that. So, yeah, I do. I put in a lot of time with those goddamn clips of like posting my stand-up clips. And you're right. I shouldn't say it's silly to want my following to keep growing, because it's to feed my other dreams. Yeah.
Totally. It's like, I think we all got to be like, what we want is not silly. Let's fucking go for it. Let's own that shit.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
How about you? Any others on your list?
Well, what my first big slot is, I'm very open to whatever is next. I am putting feelers out and thinking about a lot of different things. But I'm also just so grateful that I have been able to like transition and pivot as I wanted to. Mm-hmm. Like when I wanted a job in corporate entertainment, I did that for a while. When I wanted to do stand-up, I did that. Then I wanted to write and get paid to write. Okay. Like I kind of like go in and out of these different things that I've been very grateful to do. Oh, and then launching a business and then into consulting work. And I fucking love podcasting now. Now I'm like, I think podcasting is kind of just what I want to do for right now.
Yeah.
And have some side stuff going on, and, side stuff being like still taking on some consulting clients, but also like working on some other projects or business ventures that I've kind of put off. So some of the things that are on my list is, I know I want to write a book at some point. I just don't know exactly what that would be. I have many ideas. But I picture myself really enjoying like the audiobook process.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually was like, man, that sounds way more fun than actually writing a book, is just doing an audiobook, because it's so similar in my head to podcasting, what I already show up to do.
Right.
But that's been on my bucket list for a really long time. And I know that I want to, at least right now, I don't know the logistics quite yet or what it really takes, but I would love to create a planner. I love my physical planner, and the way that I structure it for my brain is really helpful. And I haven't found a planner that is designed for what I specifically like.
Oh.
So like maybe I would design one for myself to use, and then if other people wanted to buy it, they could buy it, right?
Yeah.
But that's a big one. It's really like the things that bring me a lot of joy that I use and I have found value in. I also want to create those things.
Yeah.
I love audiobooks, love podcasts. I love picking out a beautiful planner once a year. I'm like, this makes sense as to why I would want to also put those things into the world, because that's the stuff that I actually spend money on and spend time on. Also want to make an Oracle deck. I fucking love Oracle decks. I'm telling you, oh my God. They are like my crack right now. They are, I mean, really, they save me a lot of days. Like it is exactly what I need to hear. It is
Whoa.
meditative. It is magical. God, and I want to make one and, with, you know, like, I don't know, my thoughts or words or ideas, things that have helped me or what I've told myself to help me, and just see if they want to, you know, if they'd help other people. So that's on my bucket list. And I don't really know in what capacity I would do a lot of this stuff in. A lot of this stuff could just be that I make for myself and I don't sell professionally, and some maybe I do.
Yeah.
But that's a very specific one. And I know that I want to do something on camera, like in film. Like I picture myself maybe making a documentary or a short film, and just creating it, maybe a producer role or something. And I'll know what that might be when the time comes.
Yeah.
Whether somebody sends a script my way that I'm like, oh my God, I have to help make this thing, or I don't really know. But
Yeah.
I realize I like creating something from nothing. I really like creating, like, that thing didn't exist and now it does. That is a very gratifying experience for me in really all mediums. Like I like home projects. I like writing. It's all of it. So
Yeah. If you were going to make a bucket list for yourself, like Delaney said, I think it's great to start with, hey, what are things I've accomplished that either were already on my bucket list or would have been? But then also, if you need help with a prompt of like, how can I break this down? I know Delaney did a lot of like personal categories versus professional versus relationship. You can also think of it like, what's a bucket list goal for my 20s? What's for my 30s, 40s, 50s? Like, what are some things in each decade? Because at least for me, when I think of bucket list things, for some reason, I only picture myself like at this age. Like, what am I, like, what does this version of me want to do? And like, I think that could be helpful to picture yourself in, like, you know, what are you hoping to do in your 70s?
Right.
Like what might be left that's still on your list in your 70s, or what's something that you didn't think you would have wanted to do in your 30s that you think maybe in your 70s would be fulfilling. So just a thought.
Yeah. And that exercise that you brought up a lot of, Kels, too, like the writing a letter, whether it's your former self or your older self, that's a good one. Like,
I love that one.
All the things, like at 95, all the things that you were so grateful that you did or that happened, like, what would that be? And then you can like, ooh, how do I plug this in?
How do I work backwards? Yeah.
How do I work backwards and reverse engineer my happy little 95-year-old self?
Yeah. Fuck yeah, baby.
Yes.
Well, I hope that you guys have a good time making your bucket list.
Yeah. Have some fun with it. Oh
Yeah.
my goodness.
Yeah.
Kels, do you have any? Yeah. What do you got? What do you got to plug? What's your segment? What's happening?
Okay, so I know I mentioned that one of the things on my bucket list is to have my dream house. And Chad and I have been looking at houses the past few months. We've been, we met with a realtor, and so she would send us every morning like a few new listings. So we'd look online, and then if there's one we were interested in, we go look in person. And we did recently find one that we loved, and so we're like kind of in that process. I can't say for sure yet because I am learning. This is my first time in the buying a house process. There are lots of things that have to happen before it's like an official yes. So, but we're in the process with our dream house. It is truly such a dream. And something that dawned on me when we were in this house looking around is that I had so much imposter syndrome pop up out of nowhere, like this like really strong voice of like doubting myself, like doubting if I deserved to live in a house, and not just live in a house, but to like live in a beautiful house. And I think part of it comes from I had never, like, if you've lived in apartments your whole life and you've never even like toured houses before, it can be hard for your brain to really visualize what you want. You know, we can make collages and cut out beautiful pictures of houses in magazines, or maybe you visit a friend or a relative who's got a nice house and be like, oh, wow. But when it's not yours, like when there's not a possibility of it being yours, because for me, it's like I have a couple friends who have beautiful homes, but when I go look there, I don't start to visualize like, oh, what if this was my home? Because there's just something that's like, well, that's theirs. Like there's no way this is going to be yours. But if you go and you are looking at a house that could be yours, like it is for sale, I think that's such a powerful thing to do. And I would encourage you guys, like, even if you're not at the moment seriously considering buying a home, oh man, that was the best visualization exercise that I could have done, of like going and being in a home and realizing that I still had all this shit in my brain that was kind of like preventing me from taking that next step forward. And I've pushed through it, but I had to like sit down with myself and be like, why are you feeling this way? Like, you can afford this. You have worked really hard. You are 34. You are allowed to live in a house. Like,
wow.
I don't know. I don't know if it was like a scarcity mindset thing or.
Kels, can I ask, like, were you aware of some of the specific thoughts that you were having? I'm so curious about, like, was there certain things that you were afraid of, or you just didn't feel like worthy to, like, what was going on in your head? Do you remember?
It was, I think, a little bit of worthiness stuff, a little bit of like, this is too nice for you.
Interesting.
This is too great for you. Like maybe something in my mind of, because I've only really lived in apartments and like rented, that it's such a big leap to go from apartment life to your dream house.
Yeah.
But that's kind of, I mean, that's not that unusual. I think a lot of us, especially like at this, like in this economy, right? There's been a whole big thing for millennials where a lot of us have been like, how the fuck are we ever going to afford a house or a down payment on a house? Right. And then if you do start to hit a place in your job and your career where you are able to save some money up, then all of a sudden it's like, maybe you can. And so there is a leap. Like, it just is a leap to go from an apartment to a house. And there was something in my brain that wanted to like keep me in an apartment because that's what I knew.
Yeah.
That whole thing of like, even when it's not good for you anymore or the right fit for you, there's something in your brain that it just feels safer because it knows it. My body, my brain does not know what it's like to live in a house and have a mortgage, and you know, it would be spending more money every month on that mortgage payment than the rent we're paying now. And just everything, like my body, there was something in my brain that was like, oh, maybe it'll fall through. Like that sick part of my mind wanted it to fall through for a second just so I wouldn't have to face having a better life. I don't know why does that happen? Why do we try to sabotage ourselves sometimes?
Yeah. Well, I think you nailed it. I mean, it's survival, right? Like, this kept you alive this long. Let's not do anything different, because we don't know if a new thing is going to have the same result. But then you ease into the new thing, and then the new thing is fine. And then that becomes your survival, right? So it's like, oh, maybe you'd have the same things pop up if you like wanted to go to an even bigger house or a different house. You might be like, well, this one has kept us alive. You know, that's just like our default, I think, survival kind of brain probably kicking in.
Yeah. I didn't grow up living in nice houses. I would always kind of be thinking about how like my friends, none of my friends had divorced parents. So it was all double income households. Their parents had well-paying jobs. So when I would go visit my friends, I was always like, oh, this is a nice house. And then my house was like, I loved my mom's house, my dad's house. They were like sweet houses, but they weren't, they were different than my friends' houses that had, you know, either double incomes or parents with different jobs. So I think that's part of it too, is like this messaging that you aren't somebody who has a nice house. You're somebody who lives in an okay house, if at all. And it's also a bigger commitment than I've never made a financial commitment like this. To buy a house is like, it's different. It's different than signing a lease for an apartment. It's really like, so I think that was probably part of it too, was being a little freaked out by what that entails.
Yeah.
Financially. So, but yeah, but I'm going to do a whole leap and the net will appear mentality with this, where I'm just going, it's what you and I've been talking about, where we're staying open. It's like, we're going to say yes. I've been saying yes lately to things that are scary for me to say. I almost said no to the Bert guest spots on the tour, and I'm so fucking glad I did. What an amazing experience. And it's like, oh man, saying no out of fear in those sort of situations, it's just so limiting. So I'm excited right now to just be saying yes and see what happens.
Yeah. Oh, that's so exciting. I'm so happy for you guys. That's awesome.
Thank you. I'll keep you guys posted on the podcast.
Yeah, that's a good update. That's a good one. I guess I have a good shit. I mean, yesterday I think it kind of goes along the lines of like bucket list is I had my friends over with their babies yesterday. They came over like in the morning. They stayed for, 3-4 hours. It was just a lovely time. Had a little tea party, played with some babies, caught up with my friends. And then we recorded a podcast, an episode in the afternoon. And I was just like, like yesterday, also thinking about the bucket list episode, I was like, this is my bucket list. Like being able to create my day and have my friends over on a Wednesday morning and then do my dream job in the afternoon. I was like, this is it. Like, and I did not always feel that way. And I remember when I was at my like corporate entertainment job, I wasn't very happy with. And I remember writing a list on my phone, I think, of just like, what will be kind of the benchmark for me when I know that I have arrived to my next kind of dream. I think my dream job keeps changing, as many of you know. And I just remember thinking, if I could go for a 2-hour walk on like a Tuesday at any time, I'll know that I'm doing the dream thing. That happened, right? I was able to work for myself and be my own boss and work from home when I launched my business, and walking around my neighborhood on a random weekday saying, oh my God, I remember when I wrote this down and now I'm here. And I have to remind myself of those things because it can be so easy to get wrapped up in what's next, what's that? Maybe, should I have gone the producer route? Maybe I'll try this next. And, just all this type of stuff in my head. And I also forgot to mention, this was a very helpful tip for me too, is I like writing down all the things that I would want, or I would do if I had more money or more time or more this. And really like simple things. Oh, I would have somebody clean my home. I would have a private chef if I had enough money. Yeah. I would have allowing yourself to write down that list of even services or things that you would buy or whatever. And sometimes the things on that list, you are like, wait a minute, this is attainable now. I just never have taken time to actually sit down and write things out, where I actually can get a massage more frequently than I have been. Let me look it up. How much is a massage? I'm going to book that for myself this weekend. And then it can become more frequent. But I think we get stuck for a little bit of time, and then we don't really carve out intentional time to actually assess things and plug them in. So I just had a moment of like, oh yeah, this was on my bucket list at some point. And I have to enjoy that and like be really grateful for it. And it's okay to have other things on the list, but I need to be present also. Yeah. So it was a lovely day.
Oh, I'm so happy.
Yes.
Oh, all right, guys. Well, hopefully see you in Louisville this weekend, and then in Spokane weekend after that. KelseyCook.com for tickets.
Fabulous. And DelaneyFisher.com for career Career Crush, the podcast, all about building your dream job, life, all the things.
Yay. All right, guys.
All right.
We love you. Have a great week.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to the Self-Helpless podcast. You can find our Patreon community, merch, and our individual work at selfhelplesspodcast.com. We'd be thrilled if you shared this episode with a friend, or feel free to post it on Instagram and tag at Self-Helpless Podcast so we can repost you and say thank you.